Last week I reviewed the NAD C558, a 2-speed belt-driven turntable with a Orthophon 2M red hanging off a very nice arm actually. Pro-Ject based bits and pieces, but a cracking turntable. And if you want to see the video for that review, I'll put a little tag above. Just click on that and you'll go straight to that particular video. Now, when I did that particular review, some of you out there said, but what about the cheaper version, the 558, which costs a lot less? Actually, that is a good subject, because when I reviewed this particular turntable, I was told it was priced around $449. There is a UK retailer called Sevenoaks, which on Amazon is selling the C558 for $399. Now, I've had a quick look at the internet before I started this video, and Sevenoaks itself, this is a UK hi-fi retailer by the way, they sell all kinds of new hi-fi equipment. I've seen the 558 for sale at $299. So I'm going to say $449 because that's the sort of official price, but I recommend you shop around. You may find a really good deal. Now I'm talking about the UK. If you're in the US or Canada or Germany, France, Italy, wherever, Japan, who knows, you may also find really good deals. I recommend you search in your local area on the internet for local and national retailers. It sounds as though the price is flexible, shall we say. So that's the price. What about the turntable? Well, if you did see my video on the 588, you'll realize that the actual turntable, the 588, is very similar to the 558. And the core of the design, the core of all the bits and pieces that go to make up a 558, as well as the 588, the dearer model, both of these turntables, the core of all the actual bits and pieces comes from the Austrian turntable specialist Pro-Ject. Basically, all the bits and pieces, except the cartridge, but we'll get to that in a second. So all the parts that you will find on the C558 are all derived from Pro-Ject. Now, I explained why this is happening in the earlier C588 video, but just in case you didn't see it, basically NAD is not really a turntable specialist in a manufacturing sense. People like Pro-Ject, people like Rega, they have all the kit, all the heavy duty equipment to make all the turntable parts. They have the factory, they have the staff, they have the investment, and they're pumping out turntables on a regular basis. Now, you want to make a profit with these things, otherwise you're going to go bankrupt, aren't you? So you have to be geared up for these things. NAD isn't. NAD is really geared up to produce things like amplifiers, which they're very famous for, and rightly so, but they're not really geared up for turntables. And even if they did have all the gear, they wouldn't be producing enough of them because they're really amplifier centric. So to save money, what they did when they wanted to release the C558, they scootled off to Austria, had a nice cup of coffee with the guy over in Pro-Ject and said, right, I want to have a look at your catalogue. And basically, in so many words, if you can imagine this, the two guys stood at a big desk and they opened up a big catalogue, and the guy from NAD said, oh, right, okay, these look like interesting bits. I'll have one of those and two of them, and a pair of those and a dozen of those, and throw in one of them for me, please. Right, what's the bill? And basically the man from Pro-Ject would say, right, we can supply those at this sort of price. And the guy from NAD would say, right, okay, so that means the retail price will be this. So there's an awful lot of toing and froing. What bits can you supply at what price? And the NAD guy will be thinking, right, how am I going to put all those bits together? And then he's going to think, right, okay, what can I charge for this? So, you know, it's good for you, but it's also good for us. And all of that sort of thinking that goes on in a businessman's head. So what you're looking at basically is a whole gamut, a whole bucket of parts that are being put together very carefully by the chaps over at NAD to produce the C558. Now, although the bits are all Pro-Ject, the turntable is unique. I haven't seen another turntable like this on the market. So it's not a Me Too product, and it doesn't mean that it deserves any less attention because it has Pro-Ject parts within it. A lot of the Pro-Ject parts in the C558 you don't really see on other designs on the market, either from Pro-Ject themselves or via other brands that are selling turntables using Pro-Ject parts. The parts that NAD have chosen, how they've put the parts together, the whole design ethos around the C558 is NAD centric. Looking a bit closer at the design, from my own guesstimates, and I haven't had any confirmation from NAD on this, but I think that NAD has taken a plinth and motor from a debut turntable, added rounded corners, tweaked the finish. The core of the arm is based upon the same model used for the RPM1, right down to the anti-skate control, but the NAD's arm tube is straight instead of the RPM1's S-shaped model, while NAD's head shell is also different. I'm intrigued to see the Rega-like glass platter above the plinth. This is a former Pro-Ject accessory product, would you believe? Yes, Pro-Ject did sell an accessory glass platter. It was used for many years as an upgrade for older designs, and it was known as the Glass It. The platter was seen to award a sonic improvement on those older models. I was also interested to see the use of an Audiophile OM10, a cartridge that Pro-Ject uses on its 300 to 400 pound turntable designs. So what we have here is a unique turntable. Yes, it's a Pro-Ject at heart, but this configuration is unique. For sound quality, I began with Joe Jackson's high energy jazz LP, Jumpin' Jive, and the track Jumpin' with Symphony Sid. This song features plenty of organic instruments such as a brass section, wind instruments, upright bass and piano. The NAD sounded immediately full of life and vivacity, with an animated mid-range that provided necessary texture to the brass and woodwind and enough insight into the brass section to allow the ear to understand that there was a group of instruments playing here, not just some shapeless noise. Oh, and you see this image? I do not recommend that you follow NAD's PR office and site your turntable on top of an amplifier. Just a word to the wise. Percussion was crisp and powerful, with enough impact to maintain the pace of this lively piece, while cymbal hits allowed the treble to extend the reverb. Jackson's lead vocal was wholly entertaining, providing a high-spirited and emotive performance. I then turned to the Ruttles and Good Times Roll, a Beatles parody of Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds with a rocking overview. Now, what I did like about the performance of this rock track was the bass performance. It was quite solid, it gave the track a real foundation and it really pushed the song forward. It gave the song quite a good sense of pace. This also meant that the bass guitar was slightly more visible than might normally be the case from a turntable at this price point, which was a good thing. The mid-range extended clarity and the Lennon-esque voice in this particular track offered lots of nuance and textured detail, which was lovely. For comparative purposes, I decided to draft in an RPM3 from Pro-Ject just to see how far the NAD could reach in terms of sonics. Now, the RPM3 is more expensive by around £150. That's based on my $449 original price for the C558. But I tried the NAD with my RPM3 just to see if the NAD could get anywhere near the RPM3 in terms of quality. So why compare the C558 with the RPM3 at all? I wasn't interested in a straight face-off to see which was the better. Both offer different highlights, but I was interested in the relative and more general qualities of both to see if the C558 was reaching the required levels of sonic quality for a turntable in this price range. Now, to begin with, I had my sights on the default cartridge supplied by the C558, and that was the Audiophile OM10. Now with the OM10 in place and compared to the RPM3, I thought the 558, well, I thought the soundstage was just a bit restricted. It was just a bit smaller and dynamics were just a little bit cut off. They go so far and then bang, they sort of hit a wall and drop like a stone. So there was a bit of restriction when you compared to the RPM3 this is. Now none of these points were immediately evident when playing the C558, only in the direct A-B comparison with the admittedly more expensive RPM3. To be honest, while the OM10 is a good cartridge, I wondered if the C558 was capable of moving on a pace, and if the OM10 might be dragging the performance of the C558 back, well, just a tiny bit. And that's why I reached for the Goldring E3. The E3 is priced somewhere around £100 in the UK, comes with an elliptical stylus tip, so I put that on the C558 just to see how the NAD would perform. Adding the E3 cartridge opened up the soundstage, and for that matter the mid-range in its entirety, but it never, as it were, let go. With the E3 in place, the C558 retained sonic discipline and added a measure of focus and precision to the presentation that gave the guitars, for example, in that Ruttles track, a real sense of accuracy. Keyboards enhanced their tonal realism too with the E3's inclusion. This might have also been a welcome side effect of the lowering of overall noise, while percussion was enhanced in terms of its organic delivery. Now the NAD C558 might resemble a pick and mix bag of sweets that you may have picked up once upon a time from Woolworths. But it performs remarkably well. It performs wonderfully out of the box, and even better if you decide to upgrade the cartridge to something like a Goldring E3. All of the Pro-Ject parts used in the NAD's design are good quality items in their own right, but the unique NAD recipe, and I certainly haven't seen this combination before, certainly provides a spacious, clear and musical performance that is open to a host of upgrades to keep the basic design relevant for many years to come. The C558 is a robust and solid and lovely sounding turntable, and I highly recommend it. It'll serve as an ideal source for anyone who's building a budget hi-fi system, and because it can be tweaked and enhanced and improved over time, it should give you a long life and great value for money. And that's me done. Thank you very much for sticking with me to the end of this video, and I'll see you hopefully in the next one. Until then, bye bye for now.